It's time. It's almost midnight for bag surgery with the Lucky Bag Surefire and the Viper B and the B3 Cornhole illest. All three same fabrics. It's going to be like a comparison shootout. This is the big text gear version. That's all I have on hand. I don't have any of my own like labeled bags on hand. Isn't that pathetic? Huh. All right. Embry, Rave. All three are using the same side except this one. This is a little bit of the smoother, showier, glossier side, and this is the, what I would say, the back side, more pillowy side. And we can confirm that when we get in there. Like one of the main differences you can see right away, the closing stitch. Automated. I don't think this is automated anymore once I started to be able to do it myself. Done by hand. Automated. I know all three of these are done on an automated machine. So we'll compare the size of the templates. Mix fill, straight fill, I believe, because it feels just like this RZ3 and it feels just like this Character 77. Can you see any size differences right away? Let's measure. The Lucky Bags Surefire, good boy. 5 7/8. 5 7/8. 5 7/8. A close up on the Surefire ACL Pro 2021-22. That's a good sublimation. I think they're using a calendar press, and I wonder if they laser cut the fabrics afterwards. But I do think they are using a calendar press. Pretty good lineup. My only gripe with this lineup, and I noticed it right when I took them out of the bag, was these clovers. It's not that they don't line up, because they do line up. They could have just shrunk that pattern a little bit, and gotten these to line up perfect. How cool would that have been to have a seamless clover going around? Like, have the seam right here in the middle, not here. So just shrink the design down a little bit, because it would have worked here too. And it would have worked here. Just those little things. Okay, good sublimation on the back too. This fabric's not easy to sublimate. It's finicky. Like it's hard to work with in general unless you're doing a laser cut. Just because it's so pillowy. This is the pillow side. Let's take a look at the Viper. The Viper with the Viper fabric. Every Viper has this fabric, whether it's that side of the fabric or this side. This is the back side. This is the front side. It's called Rave. I'm really raving about it. Great sublimation. The colors are, whoo-hoo! Look at them colors. So bright. When I got these in the mail, I bought these. When I got these in the mail, I couldn't wait to get them on camera for you, because the colors are just, so good. Color matching. Oh yeah. They put work into that. That's not by accident. That's not, making the same design. There's color science going on to get them the same color, because these aren't the same color when they're blank. This is like an ivory kind of white, off-white. This is a bright white. So to get it to be the same, yeah, it takes a little work. It's not exactly the same, but it's close. The pink looks great. This fabric's really good for lighter, brighter colors like this yellow and pink. Stitching, lineup, good. I'm gonna measure all these stitch lengths. The closing seam, the ultra closing seam. 4 back tacks each side, perfect. This one is perfect, be proud of that. And now my B3 illest. Good sublimation. I'm just tooting my own horn. I mean, the lineup's good. I did these on an automated machine. All three are made the same way except for the pressing. Check the sublimation on this. Check the closing stitch. I use black thread. Now the big difference between this and the closing stitch, maybe you can see it. See how it's pretty much a straight line, and I'm just kind of holding it hands underneath. I want to do it on mine. Kind of tucks in a little bit. I believe that is due to how they do their inner shape. I think these corners here come out just a little bit to give a little bit of a buff on this so it doesn't come back in like this does. But all right, first let's take a look at OG. And as predicted, I just knew it. Look at that, single pellet fill. It's RZ3 fill, if you know what I mean. Not surprised. You could tell just by picking it up. Viper B, I knew that would be a mix fill, and it is. I love the Viper fill feeling. This round pellet with the flat. The flat I don't think makes a huge difference, but the round and the, we'll call it RZ3 from now on. The RZ3 pellets. It just feels good. The Aries bag by Olympus has the same fill without the flat discs, and it feels just like an Ultra. Feels good. And over here on the B3 side, where I accidentally cut the fabric itself, whoops, that's all right, I'll make a new one. It's a mixed fill. It's mixed of the RZ3 and a what's that called? HDPE. It's a lighter pellet, pretty slick. And it makes for a nice feel, I think. You still got the grip of this, but these ones add volume. And I'll tell you right now, between the three, between this one, I don't want to grab an open one, this one and this one, kind of floppy, you can feel the volume. My fingers are not touching in mine. They are definitely touching here. Not touching. And same kind of grip. Yeah, they're touching, barely touching. So thickest volume, middle, thinnest. Well, here's that Surefire, and I can tell right now this is the side that I sublimate on, and Ultra 2. Wow, that is quite the sublimation. Laser cut, hooray! Yep, single pellet. Here we go, the Viper B. Yep, you can tell that this is the pillowy side, the back side, because these look a lot alike. We'll get closer up, of course. Nice press, same Viper stuff, the little tabs there. And this fill is, if you go back to one of our earlier videos, the Widow, I believe this is the same mixture as the Widow. It looks like a 50-50 on the balls and RZ3. And another 25%, 35% of these little flat guys. I really like the way this fill feels, personally, but I happen to like mine more. There we go, and there's my little hole. The pellets, it's a mix of the RZ3 and the HDPE, which you may recall from the 724 Anarchy X. Yes, that's right. When I took that apart and I saw the mix, I was like, that's interesting. So I knew where both come from. I already had the one, I can get the other no problem. I started thinking, you know what, that probably adds a little volume because this is a lighter pellet. And it's not like I hadn't done this before. The Sumo bag we have was one of our earliest pro style bags. And I did the same mix, but it was a 50-50. It was a huge template, meant to max out the weight and max out the volume, and it was a slow bag. It was the same mix. And now it's back a year and a half later. The Surefire fill, same RZ3 fill, RZ3 technology, but in a Surefire, you say? Oh, it's from the same manufacturer. If you notice these edges, they seem to be the same as the Ultras, the Ultra fill. Might have even been from the same lot. Who knows? But it's single pellet fill, nothing too special here. Here we go, Ultra. I didn't do any snapping of my fingers. Yeah, it's probably my favorite mix of pellets, this style, the RZ3, and these look a little sharper, different geometry. They're not as eggy, not as rounded. They got the sharper edges, and that's where these little bad boys come into play. These little plastic pellets. You've seen these in the Reynolds bag. You've probably seen them in the Game Changer too, as well. I mean, Game Changer as well. And then these flat pellets, they're unique to Ultra. I haven't seen them in anything else. But it's just a plastic pellet, it's probably recycled. Great feeling fill. And here it is, the B3 illest fill. Again, the resin. These are like, this is a good batch of pellets. Like, look how rounded off these are. It will not take long for this fill to break in, not long at all. And these plastic ones, they don't need no breaking in. They're already slick. Yeah, I got this Gaylord 2,000 pounds and 2 more from the same lot reserved. So for the next 6,300 bags coming out of this shop are going to be just like this. Pro bags, it is. The backyard bags get the single pellet fill. Close look at the Surefire stitching. This would be the top side when they stitched it, because the backs, well, who actually knows? I accidentally cut into the main stitching when I was taking it apart. Whoopsie me. But it stopped right here actually. So I really went too far. I'll fix that. Really good stitching. This is on a Dematron machine, I believe. It looks pretty good. A lot of people have a hard time with their machines, but this one seems to be working all right. Let's get a measure out that stitch length in millimeters. Looking at 2.5 millimeter stitch length. It looked a little bit longer than the other ones, and we can see on the closing stitch here, it definitely goes past, and it's on an automated machine, by the way. It does a down and back. This was double stitched, and it definitely goes past because this was the edge of the main stitch. It goes by like 1 or 2 stitches. Fabric itself looks great. You can see the cauterized edge from a laser, and it's a laser all the way around. And based on how they stitch these, and you can kind of see a little giveaway right here, that little notch. That's a little notch. This was done on a flatbed machine. It was sublimated and then cut. Big sublimation. Right to the edge sublimation of the piece of fabric. So sublimated, cut, and then sewn. And here's the shiny side, the show side of that fabric, I call it, the side that should be outside. That's the same side that's outside for the Ultra and mine. And tension-wise, oh, they use 2 different types of thread. Tension-wise, a little soft on the tension from the top. So this change of color here tells me they're using pre-wound bobbins. Otherwise, they'd probably be the same color. In fact, they look like they're different thickness. What do you think? Getting a look at the Viper here, the Viper B inside. Ultra does this little winglet. This 4-stitch winglet, pretty cool. Same gray thread all the way around. And let's see the stitch length. If I could just get this ruler in my spot. Just under 3, 2.8 millimeters. Looks good all the way around. Of course, you know, tension, 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 a little too much. Yeah, it's a little high. This is the top side, and this is the bottom side when they sew it. And I can tell because this side has the thread tails. Let's take a look at the closing. So here's that line that they used to line up their mark. And of course, this goes down. So when it's flipped over, this is coming around here. And like that stitch is the same line as the end of the bag stitch. So they're cutting or close, but it's also single stitch. The Surefire single stitch, let me point that out. The B3 illest, double stitched. Oh, these are the rest of the stitches I didn't get out because I didn't want to cut the fabric. Yeah, that's that hole I put in the fabric. This is way sharper than my last one, so I need to be more careful. Like, that's a clean cut. But stitching, this is good to do because I've never looked at it this close. I've just eyeballed it. Looks good to me. I've been messing with this tension for a while on the automated to get it right, and I believe I got it right. I do double stitching on all bags, always double stitch, and something unique to our B3 bags I'll show you on the wide view, but here's the back side. I'll give you a hint of what the unique thing is. Did you get it? In the same order as before, Surefire, Ultra Viper B, B3 illest. Let's look at the Surefire first. Wow, beautiful bag. Fire Cornhole does the same thing, but of course they double stitch, put the laser all around. Beautiful. The single stitch, not a fan. About a 1.5 inch radius on that curve. Stitch is pretty well centered. It's not bad. Not bad for the amount of bags they produce. Of course, this is I believe this was the first bag to use this embry-rave combo, and boy was it a hit. If you didn't have a Surefire, you didn't play Cornhole. Of course, the single RZ3 fill probably left a little to be desired. That's where Ultra comes in. Now Ultra, not laser cut, neither is mine. They do trim these corners to help with the corner floofiness or lack of. Single stitch with them little earlets, nice wide opening, makes it easy to fill. This fabric is notorious for this. Just it sticks to everything too. That's where that laser cut comes in handy. Not going to unravel. And B3 illest, double stitch, cut the corners as well. This isn't a copy of Ultra. I've been doing this for 2 years since the very first set that I made. I've been trimming them corners, no joke. The thing I was talking about that we do differently, like you see how the bobbin threads over here, and they're all on the same side, and it's on the outside. Well, when we start our machine, it starts on the outside stitch. Does a back tack, comes up and around and goes inside. Why? And it stops right here where it started. I wanted to do that because since I had the flexibility and power to do it with making the sew line however I wanted with the software, I wanted the stitch that is exposed to the world to be one continuous stitch. I didn't want any start stop here. I didn't want any start stop here. I want to be one continuous perfect stitch. And this just goes around, turns around. And that's why we did that. The Surefire measures in at 6 and 1/2/3/8. The opening, I'm going to go where it actually is 2 inches. Closing stitch, automated, is right there, 2.5. Got a good overlap. The Viper single stitcher, that is 6 and just under 3/8 by a 1/16. So you do the math on that. A little bit smaller, interesting. I always like these Ultra corners. I think they look great. It's not as rounded as the Surefire and as mine. They just come out really good. Oh, the opening. We can measure them lines. 3 inches and a 3-inch closing stitch. All right, the B3 illest. Let's get it nice and flat. I've never actually measured this myself. Just gone off my old template to make it match that. 6 and 1/16 under, same size as the Viper B. Same size. Opening is 2.5. just over. And my closing, was it right there? Closing is 3 inches, so that's well covered. All right, let's get a little weigh action on these bags. Once again, I'm doing this after I cut them open. 1.02, 1.02, 1.02, 1.02. So we're looking for 4.4 pounds, 0.8 ounces. Ooh, just a little high. Let's try again. Yeah, just a little high. That's okay. They average a little higher. The Viper one, I dropped a few beads out of. It's this bottom one. So when we get to that, we'll see. 15.9, 15.9, 15.9, 15.9. So we're looking for 3 pounds, 15.6 ounces. Right on the money, Ultra. Way to go. Nice job. And we'll do mines here, the B3s. 1.02. I like mine a little heavier. 1.01. 1.01. That's where the fullness comes from. 1.02. 1.0. This was a fill-in, or filling in the spot of the one that I threw out. 1 pound. Oh. Okay. Let's see what the average is. It's going to be 4 pounds, 0.4 ounces because of the weight difference. Yep. 4. Okay, good. Final thoughts on these. Obviously, I'm partial to mine. The Surefire is with the concept where, like, you don't have to be right, but if you're first, that's more important. So they were definitely first. Did they get it right compared to this, compared to mine? I don't think so. I think this one, this and mine, it's hard to say which is best because they have their pros and their cons between the two. But this is just a little too thin and floppy. A little too thin and floppy. It's not even broken in, and it feels so thin. I haven't even played with them. Otherwise, the sublimation's good. Stitching is good. Single stitch bags. I don't know if they've ever fallen apart. I would imagine they pass inspection, but it doesn't matter if they do or don't because you can play with them anyways. The Viper B, it's got that Viper feel, the Ultra feel. The round and the other RZ3 pellets and those little flat ones. So it should feel like a Widow. However, the Widow fabrics are thicker. This Rave is not as thick as the Eureba, but the Embry is the same fabric on the bottom. So with this being a little thinner, the bag's going to feel a little looser. I like Ultra Corners a lot. They got that right. It's not as rounded. This is a 1.5, and I think this is a 1.5. This is probably like a 1.3 or something inch radius. That's a guess, maybe 1.25. But the colors look amazing. I mean, when I pulled these out, I was like, damn, God, those look good. I was really impressed. Yeah, they feel good. They could be a little fuller, just a little bit fuller, and that is where mine come in. They are a little bit fuller. They're the same size. We measured the stitch length, we measured the width. They are the same size. Mine's just a little bit fuller and a little bit roundy on corners. Yeah, same bag here. But if you just like a little more in there, here you go. And if you don't want to pay over $100, here you go. These are ACO certified, not this particular bag in my hand. This is for Big Tex Gear. I supply them as well with our bags, but this is ACO certified on the website, and this is ACL Pro certified, same as this. So originally this was going to be a Surefire and like review, but with these two bags being better than the original, I'm going to toss it to the side and give it 1 thumb up for being first and another thumb up for being first and having good build quality. Yeah, that's good. That's fair. Being first, good build quality. The Ultra. It's an Ultra design. Hot. Fill. Old classic Ultra fill. Stitching, great. Closing stitch, always perfect. 2 thumbs up and an extra just for being a little better than the Surefire. And last but not least, the B3 illest. A little bit thicker, double stitched. That's a pro. Yeah, 2 pellet mix versus a 3 pellet mix versus a 1 pellet, not a mix. Fuller, not as full. This still is drippy as all get out, so once it's broke in, watch out, world. This has been a hit so far out there. So I mean, You got choices, and then there's probably 10 other bags from other manufacturers that are the same fabrics, different kind of fill. There's probably 5 more exactly like this. There's no more exactly like this. And the Anarchy X from 724 is about the same as this, just about. They're single stitch, we're double stitch. We got a tighter seam. We got that ultra close. And in full disc close, I am striving to have my bags be as good as the Ultra, because they're not kidding when they say Ultra. I think these are the best bags around, and that's the standard I'm trying to hold myself to when it comes to buildmanship quality. So thank you, Ultra, for setting a standard, and we're gonna give 6 thumbs up to the video. How's that sound? Thanks for watching.